1:12 a.m. The upper passenger deck should have been empty, except for bolted plastic seats, a coffee cup in the scupper, and the vending machine glow. Instead, there was a wet line of bare footprints starting at the locked bow gate, crossing the deck in a straight path, and ending at cabin 6. Cabin 6 was sealed for storage. I unlocked it with the master key and found 6 life jackets on the floor, arranged in a circle around a puddle of black water that smelled like the inside of an old freezer. Dane, you still up? I know it's late. I also know you told me not to use work email for personal stuff after that thing with payroll. But my phone keeps dropping signal halfway through the crossing, and I want this written somewhere that isn't just in my head. I'm on the Gull Harbor run again. Last boat out from Morrow Point to Bracken Island. Same route I have worked for 4 years. 42 minutes dock to dock in decent weather. 50 if the tide is stubborn. We joke that if you can microwave a gas station burrito and eat it before the horn at Bracken, Captain Rourke is in a good mood. Tonight we cast off at 11:30. Weather clear, mild chop. 14 passengers, 2 cars, 1 produce truck, 1 guy with a boxed water heater in the back of a Tacoma. Normal. I did the safety count, checked the stern gate locks, did my lap through the cabin, and noticed a woman standing alone on the upper deck under the burned-out floodlight by the bow. That part isn't open at night. Hasn't been since the railing repair last winter. When I got up there, she wasn't there. The gate was still chained shut, but the deck was wet in a long stripe, like something heavy had been dragged in from the sea. Know the route. You took it for that wedding on Bracken and spent the whole trip making fun of the snack machine. There are markers the entire way. Red 2, green 3, the shoal light, then the old breakwater teeth near the island side. Even in fog, you can feel where you are after enough years. At 12:14, we should have been tying up. At 12:14, I was in the crew galley looking at the microwave clock because I had heated one of those burritos. Same joke as always, and the wrapper was still too hot to touch. The engine note never changed. No reverse, no docking bump, just the steady push of the diesels under my feet. I went to the starboard windows. Open water, no harbor lights ahead, no island radio mast, just black water and our own wake, white in the stern floodlights, stretching farther than it should. I went up to the wheelhouse. Rourke was at the helm with both hands on the wheel. He did not look at me when I came in. He said, very calm, "We are still crossing." The GPS screen beside him was blank except for our speed. I asked if the unit had lost signal. Rourke said maybe. I asked if we were drifting. He said no. Then he asked me to do another passenger count. That annoyed me more than it should have. There is something insulting about being told to count heads while the boat is apparently sailing through nowhere, so I did it. Main cabin first. Old couple asleep under their coats. Teenager with earbuds. Water heater guy. Mother and son near the vending machine. 2 college kids playing cards. Man in the orange rain shell reading a paperback upside down or pretending to. 9. Vehicle deck. produce driver in his cab. Tacoma guy smoking by the side vent, even though he knows the rules. 2 women in the SUV lane with one of those hard cat carriers between them. 4 more. 13. I checked the upper deck last because I did not want to go back up there alone. The floodlight was still dead. The chained bow gate was still shut. There was one passenger sitting in the last row of seats, hands folded, hair hanging wet against her coat. I said, "Ma'am, this deck is closed." She turned her face toward me. It was the mother from the vending machine downstairs. I went back down hard enough to miss 2 steps. The mother was still downstairs. Same yellow knit hat. Same kid asleep with his head in her lap. She looked up when I stopped beside her, asked if we were almost there. I stood there like an idiot and said, "Did you go upstairs just now?" She gave me the kind of look people give drunks at bus stops. No, I counted again. Slowly this time, touching the seat backs as I went. 14. There were now 10 people in the cabin. The extra one was seated all the way at the stern end by the emergency exit. Man, maybe 60s, dark peacoat buttoned to the throat. No luggage. No car keys in his hand. No condensation on the window beside him, even though every other pane had gone cloudy. He was looking straight at me, not angry, not confused, just waiting. I asked for his ticket stub. He smiled with his mouth closed and reached into his coat pocket. He held out a small rectangle of paper gone soft with water. The print had mostly bled away. I could still read the date. It was 14 years old. I took the ticket to the purser desk because I wanted a bright light and a flat surface under it. The paper tore at one corner when I set it down. Old thermal stock, old route code. Back when the company still called this line the East Reach Service, before the harbor bell went down. You remember that one. Everybody does. Winter storm. Engine fire. Lost with 31 aboard less than 2 miles from Bracken. They rebuilt the dock office after because families kept leaving flowers under the burned timbers. Cabin 6 on our boat is storage now. Extra preservers, mops, spill kits. The old peacoat man was watching me from the stern end the whole time, so I took the master key and went there for no good reason, except I had suddenly remembered where they keep the old archived incident binders. The door was swollen in the frame. I had to shoulder it open. Inside, the room smelled wrong. Not bilge, not mildew, colder than the rest of the boat by a full season. 6 life jackets lay on the deck in a neat ring. In the middle was a puddle of black water, still rippling. From somewhere under that water, a pager started vibrating. It was one of the old Motorola pagers the company used before they switched everything to phones. Yellowed plastic, cracked clip. It buzzed twice, paused, then buzzed again under the water. I did not reach in. I backed out, shut the door, and called Rourke on the handheld. He told me to get to the wheelhouse now. He had the paper charts spread out. Actual charts, not the electronic backup. His finger was planted on the route line between Morrow and Bracken, then lifting and setting down again, as if he could force the boat onto it. The radar was showing returns in a ring around us. Not ships, too close together, too evenly spaced, like pilings or channel markers. There are no markers in open water there. I looked out the port side and finally saw them. Posts, dozens of them. Gray wood rising straight out of black water, each one slick and shining as if it had just broken the surface. Some had metal loops, some had strips of rotten rope still attached. They passed by in perfect rows on both sides of the ferry. Rourke said, "Keep the passengers off the windows." Then one of the posts knocked against the hull. It sounded like someone rapping from below deck. People had started noticing by then. You can hide delay. You cannot hide 3 hours of the same engine pitch and the same black outside every window. The kid in the yellow hat was crying. The cat in the carrier had flattened itself so hard against the back, grate its fur looked wet. The produce driver kept saying his refrigerated load would spoil. The old peacoat man was gone from his seat. Then the ship's bell rang. One strike. It is mounted on the forward exterior bulkhead under the bridge wing. Nobody uses it except on Founder's Day, when the town committee wants old-time photos. To ring it, somebody had to be outside. I ran up the port passage and shoved through the outer door. The air smelled like low tide ripped open with a shovel. Ahead of me, in the dead floodlight's shadow, the bell was moving on its own. Slow at first, then harder. Thick drops of black water falling from the lip each time it swung, and beyond it, just outside the chain across the closed bow deck, people were standing shoulder to shoulder. Not on the ferry, in the water. Only their heads and the tops of their coats showed above the surface, as if they were standing on stairs under us, all facing in, all waiting for the gate to open. I am sending this from the office desktop because my hands will not hold steady on the phone. We did dock at 2:41, not at Bracken. The harbor on the other side had one pier light working and the rest dark. The ticket shack was there, but older, smaller, with the old East Reach sign shape still bolted above the door. The lot beyond it was gravel instead of asphalt. Half the cars onshore looked wrong. Rounded hoods, chrome bumpers, dim yellow headlights waiting in rows without moving. Rourke never made the announcement. He just opened the bow and stern gates at the same time. Our passengers did not rush out. They stood frozen in the cabin, looking past me, because people were already coming aboard. Wet coats, burned life jackets, a woman carrying a child wrapped in a blanket so soaked it hung like netting. The peacoat man stepped through them in the opposite direction without touching anyone. When he passed me, I smelled cold metal and smoke. He leaned close enough for me to hear him over the engines. He said, "This one still has room." "Dane, there are people walking up the ramp now from the dark lot, and I know one of them is me. Subscribe if you want to hear what comes through the door next."